Welcome to Politics News Wolf US channel. Ukraine has been trying to recapture the Black Sea Peninsula that it was illegally annexed in 2014 by Russian President Vladimir Putin. In response to these efforts of the Kiev army, Russia is deploying new troops to the Crimea. Crimea is an important part of the invasion of Ukraine, which Russian President Putin calls a military operation. Ukrainian president followed the Zelensky promise to retake Crimea hours after a counter-offensive was launched in the Kherson region, noting that the Ukrainian army has maintained its goal of recapturing Crimea since it was annexed by. The Ukrainian leader warned Russian troops in Crimea to either flee or surrender if they want to survive the decisive step of Zelensky, who has repeatedly emphasized in his statements that there will be no place for Russian invaders in Ukraine. Drew attention. Since the first days of the full-scale invasion, Russia has been using Crimea as a preparation point to transport ammunition and equipment to southern Ukraine, where fierce fighting is currently taking place. In this regard, cases of strange eruptions on the peninsula have recently become more frequent. The loudest emergency occurred at the Saki military airport, where dozens of fighters of the Russian armed forces were burned. The invaders angrily intensified the persecution of the inhabitants of Crimea. Russia invaded Crimea in 2014, but since then, the Kremlin has made it a solid military base in preparation for future regress against mainland Ukraine, one after another. Explosions occurred in Russian-occupied Crimea this week. The Ukrainian army does not let the Russian invaders breathe. Explosions near the Russian air base in Crimea fell on the agenda like a bomb. Ukraine is conducting airstrikes on civilian infrastructure. Russian President Vladimir Putin was terrified. Russia has already started to deploy new troops to the Crimea. As a matter of urgency, alarm bells begin to ring in Russia's Crimea. Race against time has begun to protect Russia's land corridor to Crimea. Russia is trying to bring its forces together. The Patriot missile defense system, the most advanced surface-to-air missile system, is on its way to. A possible attack by Ukraine on Crimea has already started to create an atmosphere of panic in. On the other hand, on December 31st, powerful explosions occurred in the cities of Zenko and Pasha in the Russian-occupied Crimea of Ukraine. The head of Ukraine's military intelligence agency, RIA announced on September 30 that the Ukrainian army could begin retaking Russian-occupied Crimea by the end of the spring. Ukrainian President Zelensky has repeatedly stated in August that Russia's war against Ukraine must end with the liberation of Crimea, just as it began with its invasion. Then early last Wednesday, explosions were heard near Russia's Belbek military airport in Sevastopol, Crimea, home to the Russian Air Force's 38th Fighter Regiment. Mykro was the governor of the port city of Sevastopol, founded by Russia, announced in a post Russia air defense systems shut down 2 unmanned aerial. Petro Andreyschenko, advisor to the mayor of Maria Paul, noted that this morning in Sevastopol, the air defense system was activated at least twice. The 38th Fighter Regiment of the Air Force is located in Bb, Russia. At this airport, the state of emergency orders began to be implemented after the drone attack on the Ukrainian army. Immediately after the attack, air defense systems began to work actively in the Crimea on a regular. The occupying leader of the peninsula, Sergei Ao, declared that drone attacks on the region are the main threat. According to information released by Ukrainian General Staff on January 4, Russia carried out dozens of air strikes and launched rockets, most of them targeting civilian infrastructure in Cre, Tok, Zia, and Kyi. Last night, the alarm of air defense systems sounded in many places across the. The incident came months after Rouse Higher reported a similar drone strike. In line with the statements, it was reported that a Russian air defense system shut down an unmanned aerial week over Ek airport in Crimea. The air defense system in Sevastopol worked again in the North End area. In other words, while Russia was carrying out attacks against civilian targets throughout Ukraine, it received an unexpected blow in the heart of the war in the Crimea, speaking to the Ukrainian news organization. Right after the attacks in Lubek, Ukrainian Defense Ministry representative Andrei Chay reported that Russia sent new military units to the north of Crimea to protect the land corridor leading to Crimea. Cherniak said that considering that our foreign partners are providing us with new types of weapons, the so-called blend corridor to Crimea is absolutely not safe. Ukraine will hit Russian positions in the occupied territory. Chik said Russian forces continue to build defensive structures in northern Crimea as well. Also, Chik said that they will lose, therefore, realizing that they will have to conduct comeback operations on these lines. They create defensive structures where they can. The British Ministry of Defence, on the other hand, they evaluated that Russia's forces are regrouping for a possible attack by Ukraine on Crimea. Russian troops reportedly build new trench systems near the border with Crimea. Zelensky said that this war, which started with the occupation of Crimea, with the Russian attempt to seize Donbas, must end right there in deliberated Crimea, in deliberated DBA cities. When our troops reached the Ukrainian state border, we have always kept this goal in mind. We don't forget this. The tension of the war continued to rise with each passing day. In response to what happened in Crimea, the Russians were trying to put their own plans into action. Since October, Russia's heavy blows to Ukraine's energy system have brought the war to another dimension. When Ukraine did not fall under this and intensified its attacks, we can say that it is trying not to give Russia even a chance to breathe. Ukraine stated that it has accelerated the conflict in the number of the partially occupied Donetsk and Luhansk. The destruction of large numbers of Russian soldiers in a school building in Makha-Donets region. Highlights have the unprofessional practices of the Russian military contributed to the high casualty rate. On December 31, 2022, Ukraine struck a school building in the Russian-controlled town of Makha near the city of Donetsk, where Russia almost certainly took over for military. The building was completely destroyed and 89 Russian personnel were killed, as confirmed by the Russian Ministry of Defense. As mentioned, given the extent of the damage, it is realistic that ammunition was stored near the shelters of the troops, which exploded during the attack, causing secondary explosions. The building was only 12.5 kilometers from the aka area of the front line, one of the most intensely contested areas of the Russian military has a record of unsafe ammunition storage long before the current war. But this incident shows how unprofessional practices contributed to Russia's high casualty rate. The report says the Ukrainian armed forces reportedly destroyed the damaged up to 10 units of invading military equipment in Makha-Donets region on December 31. According to the information received, the number of killed Russian soldiers reached 600. On January 3, residents of Russia's central Samara region commemorated the soldiers killed near Donetsk on New Year's Eve. The Russian Ministry of Defense claimed on 3 January that Ukraine had located the soldiers when they opened their mobile phones, but it is not yet clear how the Ukrainian armed forces determined the location of the soldiers. It is reported that the information may have been transmitted by local people. Scouts in recent days, conflicts have intensified in the eastern regions of Ukraine, where separated forces are also located. Russia has also increased its missile attacks on the capital, Kiev, and various parts of the country. It is stated that the missile attacks targeted critical infrastructure facilities. It was a matter of curiosity how Russia would respond as a result of the heavy blows it received one after another on the other. Aid to the Ukrainian army continues rapidly. It is thought to have mentioned the Patriot missile defense system, which the United States committed to supply to Ukraine in December as part of the $1.85 billion security aid support package announced by the U.S. Department of Defense. The Patriot system will be the most advanced surface-to-air missile Washington has delivered to Kiev since the war. With a range of more than 105 kilometers, it can detect, track and fire drones, cruise missiles, and short-range or tactical ballistic missiles. According to the Missile Defense Advocacy Alliance, we will see together how all this will change the course of the war. Thank you for watching the video. If you find it useful, please comment and share the video for us. It will make our channel more known. See you in the following videos. Thank you very much.